Dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. Yeah, that's right. I finally finished it. Yay! I finally finished reading Jaws by Peter Benchley, which was his first novel of many that he would write. As you can tell from the title, from the cover, I mean, this is the movie edition that they released before the movie came out, and it's actually, I have to say, it's actually a very good novel. I thought the door was about to open, but now, the first thing I would like to address is that the movie is semi-faithful, I guess I could put it, because it does have both the novel and the movie have scenes that are basically the same. It's just the only scene that's in both the novel and the movie that takes place at the same point in time is the opening scene, and that's the only scene in the novel that's in the movie verbatim. There's only one minor difference. It's a minor one. Every other thing in most of the movie plot is different, but I will address in a little bit why. But the scenes that are in both of them, besides the opening, are where they find the ruined boat, although it's under different circumstances. The shark cage attack, different as well though, but that's because of a filming thing. You know what I'm doing this off the top of my head. The first attack during the day. Not off the top of my head, that's about it. But anyway, the plot is basically the same as the movie for the most part. And just so you know ahead of time, this is more of a book review that's more for the people that normally watch my channel. More so than ones that I usually do, because most of the people that watch my channel are a fan of the movie version of this, the movie adaptation of this novel, like I am. So if you have seen the movie and haven't read the book, or have no interest in reading the book or anything, this is probably a book review you might want to watch. Now, if there's any major plot differences, it's that a couple major plot points from the novel are dropped. One of them is that Ellen, Brody's wife, has an affair with Hooper. Now, the reason for that is part of their backstory has changed. In the movie, they're basically people from the city who moved to the island because Brody wanted to take a smaller policing job, as he puts it. In New York, you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything. But in Amity, one person can make a difference. It's changed that in the movie, Brody grew up in Amity, and his wife was one of the summer people, and I guess you could say she's sort of regretting her life, but let's just say it doesn't last the whole novel. Another thing is that their initial reaction to the shark attacks is actually more like how it would be in real life. What I mean is, nowadays when a shark attacks, we know that it's not a shark. It's going to be one shark that's going to be prowling the beaches looking for people to eat like he's a monster out of a movie. It's probably just going to be an accidental bite. In the case of great white, more than likely, but if it's like a tiger or a bull, more than likely, since they usually will attack anything, more than likely. Mistaken identity, but they'll probably stick around more to do a second bite on the victim. But more than likely, if the victim gets out of the water, even if they're killed, the shark's gonna be gone by the time you send like boats out to hunt it. So in that case, the novel's a little bit more realistic with how they handle it by closing the beaches. Which, by the way, they do close the beaches only after the second attack. But it is a little bit more realistic in sending out people chumming the waters hunting for sharks. But in a movie, I don't know if that, in a thriller or a movie, I don't know if that would translate well. So that change, I don't mind. Now, another difference between the movie and the book. This was one off the top of my head. In the book, Amity is not an island; it's a summer town on the coast. But another thing is how the mayor is. In the movie, he wants to keep the beaches open because of the town. While in the book, he wants to do that as well, but he has a more personal reason for doing so. I'm not going to say what it is. Let's just say he's made an offer he can't refuse. Yeah, I think you could probably get what I mean by that, just from that impression. So it's not that he doesn't want, it's that he does not want to close the beaches. It's that he can't at first. And he even gets a little bit even more defensive about it. In the movie, he basically says it nicely, but he even tells Brody when he first wants to close the beaches after the girl, if you close the beaches, you're out of a job. And it's only after the second attack that he relents and lets them close the beaches and let the shark move along. Which, as we see, it doesn't. I wonder what it does though. It probably goes away and then the water. But I will say I like how with how it comes to the beaches, I like it better in the movie. Because it would make a little bit more sense for the shark to act that way if the beaches were still open instead of them being closed for like a week or two and then the shark looked like it was gone and then come back out of nowhere. I mean, Hooper even mentions that the fish activity he saw indicates there's no large predator, so it makes the shark come out of nowhere, which again makes one of the characters think and it's an act of God make a little bit more sense. Speaking of Hooper, in the book, he is actually an ass. I will say that. Obviously, thing of what I mentioned earlier about him and Ellen, yeah, that's the first thing. But he's more kind of a stereotypical snobbish rich boy in the book, so I actually like how they changed him in the movie a little bit better. He's a little bit more likable, and you know some of the rich person vibe there, but he does not like it, and you can say he hates the rich boy stereotype. You get that vibe when Quentin takes his hand. Yeah, these are city hands, you're counting money. He's like, I don't have to take any of this rich boy crap. You can tell from that alone he does not like that stereotype. And also he's very likable. It's probably because of Richard Dreyfuss's acting. Can't take it. Aye aye, sir. Can't take this abuse much longer. And Quint, he's more or less the same. He does different stuff, but he's more or less the same. And I actually like his introduction in the book. In the book, he's introduced like around page 100 after the first couple of attacks, and you don't see him again until the climax. He has a badass intro. He's actually taking a guy out fishing, and he's just sitting there talking, and the guy's asking about the shark. You think we'll run into the shark? Maybe. Maybe not. We're gonna go look for him? No. We'll find him when we find him. He's basically saying that we'll find the fish when it's destined for us to find the fish. Now, that's a good intro, but I like how they did it in the movie, too, you know. And, of course, the movie gives us that famous line that's not in the book. You get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. That line. And then, of course, the famous Indianapolis speech. I will say, though, that he was in the service like his movie counterpart, except they change it. In the movie, he's in the Navy, while in the book, he's in the Marines, which, by the way, he does use that to get under Hooper's skin a little bit. Oh, yeah. And unlike, oh, yeah, a little minor difference, who chums? In the book, it's Hooper. In the movie, obviously, it's Brody. But I think it's funny if Brody does it. Yeah, come on, chum some of this shit, huh? But also, I'm trying to keep count of how many people are killed if it's the same. Because, see, in the movie, we got the first victim, then we got the kid, then we got the guy on the boat, and then we got that other guy on the boat at the beach. So that's about 4 victims. In the book, let's see, we got the opening one, we got the kid, we got an old man that's attacked. Yeah, there's about 4 victims who are killed, but there's 5 attacks in the book, but the last one is unsuccessful until, of course, they actually go out. Which brings up another, this is kind of a minor one, which I can see why they changed it in the movie, because it keeps the plot a little bit more fluid. And that is, in the book, they keep constantly going out to sea to get the shark. Which, in a movie, it's better if they just stay out there once, because, take this for example, the shark attack on the cage takes place one day, then they go back in, then they come back out, and then the whole thing with the ending of the movie involving the boat. That would not translate well if they had done it like that in the movie. You'd be like, what the hell? It makes a little bit more sense for the shark attack, the cage, then leading into the climax, which leads probably to one of the biggest differences plot-wise, how the shark is killed. We all know that famous scene in the movie, smile, you son of a bitch. Now, for a thriller movie, that's probably a better climax. Because if they had used the book ending, it probably wouldn't have translated well between the mediums. People would have been like, yeah, what's going to happen? What's going to get him? Oh, that's kind of a little anticlimactic. In a book, it works. But for a movie, especially with how Spielberg paced it, it wouldn't have worked. But still, the movie, despite all that, is still pretty faithful to the source material. And I have to say it's probably one of my, even after reading the books, it's still one of my favorite adaptations of a novel. Like I said, some changes were done, but some of them were warranted. Like, some of the characterization changes were warranted because they dropped the affair plot point, and they dropped the Godfather plot point. So dropping those two plot points, how they rearranged the plot, I thought was pretty good. Now, Brody, characterization-wise, when it comes to him and the law, he's basically the same on that. It's just other character traits are different, obviously, because of how he grew up. He's more of a city person in the movie, so you can tell he's going to act a little bit different there, but he's still likable. Ellen is more like, she has more to do in the book, obviously. I didn't mean that pun. Those of you who caught that, but she's likable in both ones. Hooper obviously is more likable in the movie, but he's still sort of likable in there, but there's tension between him and Brody. Quint the same. And another thing is, there's actually some parts of the book written from the shark's point of view, which I thought was interesting. But those parts it's written, you could tell that the shark is just an animal, and basically does exactly how Hooper put it in the movie. That all he wants to do is swim, eat, and make little sharks. That's basically what you get from it. Of course, it's only from when it's from his point of view that you actually get the fact that it's an actual shark and not, a human interpretation of a shark. Because that's basically how both the movie and the book portray sharks. Because, as Peter Benchley said, I don't remember when he said it, but he said many years after he wrote Jaws, if he couldn't really write it in good conscience now, which I could say, I can agree with him. A movie like Jaws and a book like Jaws would not be written nowadays with what we know about sharks. Back then, yeah, it would, because we always thought they were mindless killing machines. Now, if we were to do something like that, it probably would have to be a short story about a shark attack or something. But with how the shark goes about killing, unless you come up with some explanation, like Deep Blue Sea, for example, they're smart sharks, so they can think. Then a shark attack movie is more plausible. But with how we know about sharks, it's kind of hard to do one now. But so you could tell in that respect, both the movie and the book are kind of works of their time. But I still think both of them hold up. Now, if you notice, I never said anything about the plot because I think everybody knows what the plot of Jaws is. And if you don't know, the plot is killer shark attacks people off the coast of a town called Amity, and police chief wants to close the beaches. He's told no until a couple people get killed, and then they hire a shark hunter named Quint to go get him, and that's basically the plot in a nutshell. If you have not seen Jaws at all, or if you haven't heard of it, what rock have you been living under? Anyway, my rating for the book, I give it a 4 out of 5. It's very well written. It actually goes by pretty quickly. It's just, it loses that point because, like I said, it's basically a book of its time, and some of the characters aren't likable as much as they could have been. And also, the shark seems more of a monster he seems less of a monster in here than he does in the movie. And also, there's those couple bits that are like, why the hell is the shark doing that? It's just those little things. I guess maybe it's because I read the book after I saw the movie and noticed that, but just those little things. I know they might sound like nitpicking, but they do bring the score down a little bit. Not to say that it's a bad book. If you ever find it, give it a read. Now, with me, it took forever to find this book because I never saw it at Barnes & Noble. I never saw it at Borders when that Borders was open. And it was only the last time I went to the bookstore I found it, and I'm happy and I'm proud to have this book in my collection, just like I'm proud to have the movie over there in my collection.